Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Ortiz, a reporter here at TheWrap, and we are so happy to have you here for our 2021 Power Women Summit. Today, as part of our Next Gen Hollywood panel, we have some just absolutely kind of mind-blowingly incredible women from Reservation Dogs. We have Devery Jacobs from Gossip Girl. We have Jordan Alexander from Cobra Kai. We have Peyton List from Dear Evan Hansen. We have Zoe Luna. And from On My Block, we have Sierra Capri. Hello, ladies. How is everyone doing this morning?
Hello.
Good. Everyone's excited to be here and very zen and low energy as I clearly am.
Yes,
Well,
very excited.
Good. We're very excited to have you here today. I want to jump in and I want to start just kind of very generally. This is our Next Gen Hollywood panel. Obviously, you guys all have a kind of very singular experience. It's weird. It's a singular experience, but it's also something that you all share. You're all young women in Hollywood, and it's a feat. I mean, it's just really kind of a different sort of life. So just tell me about living that life. I mean, tell me about the pressures of being a young woman in Hollywood. Zoe, I want to start with you.
Oh, wow. It's an interesting experience, for sure. I think it's been interesting learning that you have to learn how to shut your mouth sometimes. You know what I mean? I've been a very expressive person all my life. And so learning to go from having like a big type of family community to learning that maybe that's not the best for you and having like a smaller circle has been really helpful in my process to being able to feel genuinely supported and feeling like I can accomplish more by having just myself as my guide, and then having like a couple like people that are like, hey, like maybe that wasn't the best choice. I'm like, you're right, but I choose that myself, so it's been an interesting dynamic learning how to navigate making decisions for myself as a young woman in this industry, whether that be personal wise or actually like work wise. But it's been a fun one for sure. I'm living my best life, so that's great.
Living your best life. It's what we really want to hear. And I do like what you said about having select people to say, hey, maybe that wasn't a great decision. We all absolutely need that. Sierra, what about you? What has your experience in this industry been like?
I'm pretty sure like everyone has that same feeling of you really never know what to expect in Hollywood. And I think sometimes you think you're a certain type, or you think that you have to look a certain way, and it's a very pin girl against girl type of field. But the longer I'm in it, it's interesting because I realized like I'm not alone. There's a lot of other girls that this is actually a community, and there's a lot of other women that I can actually speak to and know that there's just certain things that are out of your control, whether it's for a job or for anything dealing with Hollywood. There are things that, I mean, down to like your hair and, skin tone and just like boob size. It's just like weird things in Hollywood that you can that you can talk to and share and relate to with other people in the industry who you guys just all know that you're in it together and it's not a competitive environment.
Such a real thing, talking about boob size. That's like just all women, I think, but like I feel like especially in what you guys do, it's definitely a more specific conversation. So I like that you chose that as an example. Devery, what about you?
I really liked what you just said, and I think that's been part of the plight that I've experienced in coming into the industry as a queer Mohawk Indigenous woman, and I think that's been finding community. For a long time, I felt really isolated, and when I would step on set, I would be like the only either queer person or Native person, let alone Indigenous queer person, for like miles. But as the industry has begun, and what my hope is that it's the very beginning, has become more inclusive and open to hearing stories from different communities, that I've begun to see people like myself and have been able to create projects with them, like with the show Reservation Dogs. But yeah, finding community and feeling that sense of safety is huge for me. And so that's been one of the biggest and most longstanding struggles I've had working as an actor and filmmaker. But I'm beginning to find it, and it's a really great way forward.
Absolutely. Jordan, you and I have talked before, and we asked for, your advice for young actresses, and it's been what has been said so far. It's been find your tribe, find your support, and I really love that. So tell me about finding your support in the industry and what you've gone through on this journey.
Yeah, I feel like it's very, very important. And like Zoe was saying, sometimes having a ton of people isn't really the solution, more so like a quality over quantity type situation. Like you want to really surround yourself with people who support your art and support you as an individual. But yeah, I think community is really important, whether that's 2 people or 10, you want to have those people around you. And I just believe that like creating art is such a communal act. You want to say something to the world and you want to express yourself and your experience. So yeah, I think it's really, really important.
And Peyton, I save you for last just because you have a little bit of a unique experience in this industry, because you are a starlet who started on Disney Channel, right? And there's like a set of expectations that comes with that, I would think. And then as you transition into, different projects as you get older. So tell me about how that has been for you.
Yeah, it's been interesting, but I really enjoyed hearing you guys speak on the experience, because it is we're in such a small group of people, like women that are our age coming up in this industry. And it's so comforting to hear your guys' experiences, because I've kind of been coming to the same realizations lately. And, I can learn so much from you guys. But yeah, it's been interesting because I was kind of like the only kid my age. I was surrounded by kids, but I was the only female that was my age on the show and everything else. And that was kind of my high school experience. So coming into the industry now and like working with everyone, and we're all sort of similar ages now and everything else, like it's been very trippy coming out of the pandemic and sort of coming into that, but it's felt very comforting.
Yeah, coming out of pandemic life is like it's a trip. I sometimes forget that 2020 actually happened. Time is not real to me anymore. So Devery, I want to ask, because we talk about finding your support and finding those people that can tell the stories that you want to be part of telling, and that reflect your experience. And Reservation Dogs is a very singular kind of show in that respect, where it is the first show all Indigenous writers and cast and whatnot. And it's kind of like the example, right? It's what people say they want. It's for representation to happen. We need it to actually be reflected. But Reservation Dogs, like it happened. It is what people say we need and just somehow aren't doing. So tell me about that experience and working in that kind of environment.
So what's funny about Reservation Dogs, and seems so fitting, is that the entire reason why the show exists isn't because the industry was looking for Indigenous stories. It wasn't because they were like, we're going to pluck Sterling Harjo, this filmmaker, out of obscurity. It's because of an Indigenous filmmaker, Taika Waititi, who is Maori from New Zealand, turning towards his peers and being like, I want to create with the people who I've come up with. Both him and Sterling Harjo came up in the Sundance Native Lab and had known each other for years. And so it seems only fitting that a series like Reservation Dogs came to be because it was opened by, like, the doors were opened by peers and by community. And I think that's what ends up making the project so special, is because it's by Indigenous people and for Indigenous people. And I think in terms of representation, obviously it's hugely important. That's something that I am really passionate about and base so much of my work on. But with a show like Reservation Dogs, to be able to kind of like forget about non-native audiences and to just make a project for us, and to make a show about funny res kids and humans and my cousins and people I grew up with, me as like a nerdy res kid growing up in my community. It was so gratifying, and is one of the projects that I'm most proud of in my career.
Well, and clearly it's a winning formula, because you got that season renewal. Hey girl, we love to see it. I just hope that it can be an example of, like, it's an Indigenous people telling a story for Indigenous people, and it's like, hey, this works. Maybe let's try this with other cultures and with other people, and actually see that on screen. Devery, I also want to point out, I read somewhere that you were, as a kid, inspired by Harriet the Spy, right? And love that, because also I still kind of want to be a spy to this day because of Harriet the Spy. But no, I'm glad that you say that though, because there's a quote from Harriet the Spy that has stuck with me for years. And I'm so excited I get to bring this up naturally in conversation, but it's a quote by Miss Golly. And she says, "There are as many ways to live in this world as there are people in this world, and each one deserves a closer look." And I feel like that's really, really relevant to reservation dogs. And I think it's the coolest thing. And, you know, Zoe, it's also relevant in projects that you've been a part of. You were part of Raising Zoe, which was hugely personal. Like that's, I think one of the most terrifying things you can do is be part of a project that's so personal like that. So tell me about your experiences in that and how it shaped what you do now.
I mean, it's very personal. In a different way than I think most people would understand. And that's because it wasn't necessarily about, I mean, it was a documentary that captured a moment in my life as a child and captured, you know, it had a specific meaning and it had a specific message. And I think a lot of people will associate that with my upbringing and my story. And although it was one part of it, there's a lot that a lot of people don't know about me. And there's a lot of pain and hurt that's happened throughout the years that really do not reflect the subject matter of that documentary. And so with that being said, it's a very personal thing to do as a child, and to, you know, grow up feeling like you have to be the voice of reason for, or like the face of a community or a different type of minority. And it's a lot of pressure, but it's something that I just kind of took on because I was a child, you know, I always wanted to be a part of the industry, and I always wanted to, you know, as a little girl, be like on Disney Channel or something like that, you know? So when I heard of like, oh, you just get to be on camera and share your story, like, great. You know, I was 11, you know, I didn't understand what I was doing. And then learning that there's like a lot of things that you have to reveal, and then learning that, you know, you're speaking for yourself, but you're also representing a whole community. It was really tough. And it was, you know, it's an interesting thing that's followed my life. And I don't regret doing any of the documentaries that I've done, but I hope to do more that actually get to, you know, expose myself. You know, I feel like it would be great. I think for the time it was relevant because we didn't have that much parental support. And, you know, I think it was necessary, but I would love to share my story authentically at some point in my life. But I'm really appreciative that I was a part of many different experiences and collaborations that have included diverse people in it. And yeah, I'm just very grateful that I was able to do that, even though I did not understand really what I was taking on. But you know, I think what life is all about is just kind of accepting that you're in it, and just like allowing yourself to take whatever is coming at you and make it either a positive thing or a negative thing, and then learning to make negative things into a positive, you know? So I'm very grateful that I was able to be a part of that. And I just hope to see more honesty be spread throughout the years. And I hope that, you know, all of our voices can, you know, even if they're limited, can create more room for more voices and more stories to come out.
Knowing what you know now and projects that you've been a part of, and like you said, you were very young during that project, how for future things would you approach it differently? Because like you said, there's the pressure of saying things probably, you know, exactly right, because you are, like you said, you're expected to be the face of a certain community, but that's really a lot of pressure. So how would you approach this going forward?
I mean, definitely how I would approach things moving forward in my career is just doing things a lot more intelligently rather than just emotionally. I think that, you know, as like a Cancer, I kind of just say too much sometimes, or just reveal too much. You know, I'm very much water. So I think I would move forward in a more tactical way, a more intelligent way, you know, really honing in on what I want to say before actually speaking it and thinking about it, and having the right team behind me that's like, okay, you know, you want to share something that's vulnerable, but how can we do it in a way that's impactful, that doesn't create a bunch of problems? Because I feel like as an actor, you know, in this industry, there's so many things that you experience or that you see, and you don't want to speak on it because it's like you want to secure your spot at this table still to make sure that you have like a lasting career. But at the same time, you know, there's just many situations that I've been in where I've wanted to reveal things, but because of people in power, I haven't been able to. You know, unfortunately, my mom was one of those people. So, you know, I just would move forward with people that allow me to express my truth while still making sure that everything is wrapped up in a safe box for me as a person. But ultimately, I do want to as much as I say I want to move more strategically, I also want to be more reckless, and I want to just share how I feel, because honestly, I think that I've spent a lot of my life hiding how I feel to make other people feel better about themselves. And I think that at what point do we continue to like hinder ourselves and stifle our voices when we're trying to create change? You know, I believe in radical change as much as I'm trying to be guarded. So it would be a balance of being extremely open and extremely tactful.
I like that
protecting
concept.
yourself in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like the concept of strategic recklessness. I feel like that's how I need to live my life now.
That is actually a really good. I like that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Right. That
Thanks.
If that's all we come away with today is live your life strategically reckless.
strategically.
Yes. Exactly.
Well, so Sierra, I want to come to you next, because with On My Block, that's also a show that became very beloved very quickly because of its representation, right? Like, it's another community that we are not seeing. Those really enunciated community. It's another community that we aren't necessarily seeing so much on screen. So tell me about being pitched On My Block. Was this something that you immediately were like, I need to be a part of this one, like this one right here, this is it?
Definitely. No, I literally, when I saw the breakdown, I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely me. And the fact that the characters, she had 3 male best friends, I was like, well, I have 3 older brothers, so I can kind of take my relationships with them to help cultivate the relationships that I form with the other main characters. So I had no idea what to expect. But I definitely agree. I think that it's really important to see yourself represented on screen. And I would like to think that our show was one of the first Netflix original shows that, you know, helped promote diversity and representation and change, and the shift in Hollywood to now we're seeing so many shows have, you know, minority casts, and ours was literally all 4 leads were minorities. So I think that was a really big moment for, you know, for Netflix and for us. And we didn't know what to expect. We were just hoping that we even got a season 2, or that, you know, someone was going to watch season 1. So luckily, you know, 4 seasons later, we were, you know, I'm so blessed and so thankful that we've had the fan base that we've had. But it was definitely, that was the main reason that I was like, yeah, no, I have to book this, is because I was like, this show, I know that it's going to affect a lot of people, and I know that it's going to, even if it wasn't on a broad spectrum, I knew that it was going to help someone in the same environment and in the same circumstances move forward.
Was there a moment that you kind of like, you and the rest of your cast, was it like, oh, like we're doing something here? Because I don't think I've ever seen as passionate a fan base, at least like on social media, as the On My Block fans. Like, they fought for you guys, they went to war, like they were ready at all times to do whatever you needed. So was there a moment that you were like, oh, this is awesome?
No, legit, like I promise, if it was not for social media and for the internet, we would have not known how our show was received, because Netflix, you know, I feel like Hollywood in general, they just do a good job of not letting you know how well something is doing. So you're thinking in your mind, like, okay, are people watching us? Are they not? And you know, your crew around you, everyone is just like, it's another project, it's another day. So if it wasn't for social media and honestly seeing, you know, all these fans reach out and seeing our fan base grow over time, I kid you not, we probably would still not even have known the impact that it had, which is crazy to say, but it's true.
It's incredible. It's one of my favorite things always, is seeing fan bases get motivated and just fall in love with a show. And especially On My Block, Reservation Dogs, you guys built that fan base. But then, you know, Jordan and Peyton, you guys are Gossip Girl and Cobra Kai respectively. You've kind of got like built-in fan bases there, because those are cultural staples. I mean, these are things that people came up with. And, you know, Jordan, we've talked a little bit about this before, but I would love for you to dig in on coming into a project. Like, what is the mentality you have going into it and saying, okay, there are expectations here. Like, there are fans that know what they want to see from this new Gossip Girl.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really been like nervous about expectations, like in any aspect of life, like what someone thought I was going to be or what I was going to do. Um, for a long time, I've just been very much kind of forging my own path. So I feel like I was a little bit prepared for that, to come into it, but also um I like it. I think it's great whether or not people are like passionately upset that their favorite show is being rebooted or whether they love it. I think it's really cool, you know, that people are engaged and they're feeling about something, you know. Even if I don't like something, I'm still talking about it with my sister and we're having like a good time being like, oh, how could they, whatever. So I think like it's a win-win situation, and I hope everyone's just having a good time.
It's like a healthy way to approach things, Jordan. My goodness. Because if it were me going into Gossip Girl, I'd be actually terrified just because of the mark that show left on pop culture as a whole. So
Mhm.
congrats to you, girl. I mean, that's again, that's incredible. Peyton, what about you for Cobra Kai? This is not a reboot, it's a sequel series, and it's like like not way in the future. That was aggressive, but it's in the future. But it's obviously it's got characters that again were pop culture icons for a certain generation. So when this comes across, comes across your desk and you say, "Oh, it's Cobra Kai," what are your thoughts going into that?
Gosh, yeah, when I first auditioned for it, it was a YouTube show, and I was just coming off of Disney, and I mean, I'd always watched The Karate Kid. Like, it was one of the movies that I had on my DVD player, and my mom was like, "This is a rite of passage. Like, you have to watch this movie." But I did not realize the fan base and like the level people have connected with that movie when it first came out. Like, I have heard the most beautiful stories, and I feel like people connected with movies so differently in the 80s because there were so few things that were coming out. We didn't have streaming services. We had such, so few things. So that was just like, I mean, it made an impact in a lot of people's lives. And then it's kind of crazy to see like guys coming up now and saying, "Oh, I introduced my kids to it." And like the legacy's kind of going on. But I came into it in season 2. So I hadn't even been shown on the show. And I already like was showing up to the airport and people were coming up with like Karate Kid and Cobra Kai posters, and like they immediately welcomed me into the sort of Karate Kid space. And that fan base has been so awesome, so fun. Like we just did our first Comic-Con because of COVID. Like we hadn't been able to do all of them, and like the whole cast went, and it was just so awesome to meet all these fans and just have them, yeah, be so embracing of me and like the character, and also just share their personal stories of me. And um, even like a dad went up to Sholo, who plays Miguel, and he was like, "You and your character and like Johnny, your relationship with him has healed my relationship with my son." And like we've been able to reconnect again as a family because watching you guys do that and watching these like broken people and relationships come back together after so long, like we kind of learn that it's never too long to, just make up again. I'm like, my God, this is like these stories are crazy, and I just feel lucky to be a part of it, really.
You just not break down in tears in that moment because I'd be like, "Oh my God, this is so great."
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like yeah, I was like, this wasn't even about me. I'm just watching it from the side and I'm crying. But like it's really cool that what we can do like with these shows and what everyone has done, like it's cool to see people come together because of it and just have a little community.
Well, okay, so talking of, interpersonal relationships and what comes of them in real life from what's on screen, Jordan, one thing I am crazy about in Gossip Girl is the relationship that Julian and Zoya get to have. Because you think, right? They set this expectation that's like, they're going to be catty and they're going to be at each other's throats. There are problematic moments, certainly.
Yes.
They're sisters. But for the most part, there's always this drive to get back to this healthy base of like, look, I don't want this tension between us. I don't want this conflict. I just want to be your sister, which is, I think, a beautiful, beautiful relationship between two females to see on any show. So what does it mean to you to be portraying that kind of healthy relationship? Was there conversations that went into that? Tell me more things.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like both Whitney and I were very excited, to have that kind of representation. There's definitely, I mean, it's Gossip Girl, there's going to be drama between everyone, but I feel like there is a really strong undercurrent between Julian and Zoya, that is a good example. That being, no matter what happens, you overcome these situations to like experience love and connection and compassion with the people that you care about. And I think that seeing that between women, when historically and probably present day as well, there tends to be this kind of like narrative about the way women relate to each other. And I'm always very excited to see that be challenged and questioned. So yeah, I'm very excited about it.
It's beautiful to watch. And on the flip side, Peyton over on Cobra Kai, Tori's got, let's call them anger issues. There's
What?
some stuff there's some stuff bubbling under the surface there, and she does have tension with other women on the show, but specifically Sam. I mean, tell me the balance of playing that, because obviously you want to stay true to the story and the nuances of it, but still, give fans something to look up to. There we go, words.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing to balance. It is a feud, and people will come up to me and say, oh, it's crazy to see women fighting over a guy, and I'm like, that's not it at all. I mean, yes, that's part of it, but there's also a lot more to it. And I mean, I think to see women in the sort of karate space and the fighting space too, and like doing stunts and doing all of that, is also what I focus on a lot, because I've had little girls come up to me and say they've taken up self-defense or taken on martial arts or whatever it is because of the show. And that means a lot, because I think girls should be, more in that space, and like hopefully can be inspired by that. But yeah, I just think that the relationships are complicated. And I think it's also not even about just like women not getting along. I think it's just sometimes people come from very different backgrounds, or, socioeconomic backgrounds, and they're not going to see each other's sides really. Like they're not, I think that's sort of important. Like just, I don't know, even with like all the politics and everything else, like it kind of just the political divide and everything else kind of reminded me of like our relationships, and just not really being able to understand the other person. And I just feel like they get started on a really bad foot, and Tori just thinks Sam will never understand her, and she's too privileged to ever understand really a lot of people. So I think that's more of the relationship.
It's complicated. People are confusing all of the time, always. And it's always really fun to me to see those different relationships play out on screen. Sierra, though, one thing that I want to touch on is at the end of On My Block, Sierra, you're just doing your own thing. I mean, you finished the series and you're like, I'm going to focus on me. I'm going to do what I need to do. And it's just wonderful. And so just tell me, I mean, when you found out that was how things were going to go for you, what was your immediate reaction?
About time. No, I was very, I'm glad that, like I said, that we've even had 4 seasons, and we've been able to watch all of our characters grow and evolve over time. And we're literally a family on and off screen. I think that's why our chemistry is so great. Like, I just saw Jessica yesterday, and we get dinner all the time and stuff. So I think it's really important to have that type of environment where you guys all can lean on each other for support. And I'm so blessed that, in our last season, we got to really see, for instance, like a relationship with Jasmine, with Jessica's character Jasmine and my character Monse, like got to see them form a relationship and really demonstrate, women empowerment and support, and how important that is in this world, especially in the minority community. I feel like that isn't portrayed a lot of the time. So we were very excited, and we love working together. So we were just, I'm really happy with the way that things ended. And I know a lot of people aren't. But I think that, it was a nice, pretty bow put on 4 seasons.
I mean, you can never please everyone, right? That's just the impossible task of what you ladies do. Is there's always going to be people who think that they're the writers of the show and that they know exactly how things should go.
Right.
I'm very excited. Jessica had some big news in life recently. Are you ready to be a very cool aunt?
Yes, the SEC is so ready. The funny thing, I was about to slip and say that yet. Like, that's why we were at dinner, but I changed it. I'm like, maybe she won't want me to say that. But yeah, no, I'm very excited for her. She's going to be the world's best mommy. She's so fantastic. And yeah, I'm very excited for her. I can't wait to see her little bundle of joy.
I'm excited for her kid. Cool mom, cool aunt, great role models to look up to. Like, we are living in a great time for the youngins.
Oh, spoiled. It's yeah. He or she's gonna get spoiled by everyone on the show. I already know.
It's going to be amazing. As much as I think that we are in a wonderful time, I do want to ask, this is something that I think about a lot, and I want to open this up to all of you, is just how do you look out for your mental health in this industry, right? Because it's hard. Like, there's just no getting around it. It's hard. You have to go through things that a lot of people don't have to go through. So what is your kind of go-to method of like, okay, I need to look out for me right now? And Zoe, I want to start with you.
Thank God, because I was ready for this one. I'm very spiritual, and I try to pick up on vibes as much as possible. I think from being a survivor of sexual assault, I don't know if that's like a superpower I freaking gained from that, or I'm just a very paranoid person. But, I would say that I've leaned in on my spirituality to help me guide myself through this whole journey and experience. And I think that, the experiences that I've had on the sets that I have been a part of have really taught me when to extend yourself and when not to overextend yourself. So definitely how I maintain a healthy balance with myself and I don't feel drained and I keep it focused on work is that I keep it focused on work. It's very fun to socialize with everyone and it's very amazing to, have those bonds. But I think a lot of the times, depending on someone's process or depending on, the situation, it might seem like everyone wants to be friends, but it could be something completely different. And so I try to make sure I take care of my mental health by just retracting from situations that I feel, listening to my body and listening to when I feel like I've had enough and when I'm overextending myself. And also by, I think therapy is something that I firmly believe in. And I think that it helped me understand myself. And I don't think that you can really find the best tools to help your situation if you don't even understand yourself at the first, because then you won't understand why you do the things you do, or you won't understand what triggers you. So, being vulnerable, being honest with yourself and going to therapy can lead to you being able to find tools like spirituality or like actual coping mechanisms to being able to help yourself and, not just cope, but heal and move forward. So spirituality, listening to my body and being honest with myself and finding people that I can really confide in, because I have a very, I process things externally, not internally. So I have to have people that I can rely on, if sometimes not myself. So yeah, that's how I kind of attack it.
I feel like we're having a really great coping session here. Just getting tools that we need for life is what I'm getting here. Devery, what about you? How do you process things? How do you take care of yourself in this crazy life that you are living?
Similarly to Zoe, I also am a huge advocate for therapy, especially over the pandemic. I was able to see my therapist regularly, and I left, well, not that we're out of the pandemic, but I'm now on this side of the pandemic, feeling like I have emotional stretch marks all over my body because of how much I've grown and how deeply I've been able to listen to myself. So that's been huge, a huge part of setting boundaries and making sure that I'm taking care of myself and my mental health, and also connecting with family, connecting with my community, and making sure that I'm staying grounded in that. I also have different people and things that I can turn to spiritually, just to make sure that I'm taking care of not only my mental health, but also my spirit and mind and all of that. But yeah, I love that this is just like a pro therapy conversation.
It's what I strive for in all of my conversations. Peyton, I want to come to you next because, Zoe mentioned taking care of her physical health as well. Cobra Kai it's taxing. I mean, you mentioned in the martial arts space and your stunts. So you have to look out for your physical health and your mental health. And it's a lot. So what do you do?
It is a lot, but luckily I think the two coincide and they help each other out a lot. And if I get to punch some things, that's very helpful. But yeah, I think it's really like my physical, working out has become the way to clear my mind. Like I now go on these long runs, or we have to stretch every day, like every morning before we start working out and when we start our karate, we have to stretch. And I've just kind of implemented that into my life too. Just stretching and listening to your body, finding some quiet time too, and just like finding there's structure in that as well. Just having structure in a industry where there's really not a lot of it, and they're throwing you around all the time and asking you to be in all kinds of different places at once. I think finding some quiet time for yourself is just so important. And I don't know how I was doing it without it before. Yeah, because it's a lot.
I can't relate to the long runs thing. People who run for fun confuse me. I don't get it. I respect it. I respect it so much. I just don't get it. I'm also not, I don't think I'm meant to be a land creature. Running is very hard for me. But it's crazy to me that you can do that. But it's great for some people.
Yeah, no, it used to be I used to never think I would go on long runs, but I was stuck in Canada over the last couple months filming, and it was just beautiful there. And so I just ended up running with music on, like blasting music and near the water, and it's clean, and I feel like I can breathe over there. And yeah, it's like a spiritual experience for me.
What's on your playlist? Like what was your like number one pump up running song? Like, oh, this is the vibe. This is the move right now.
Oh gosh. There's this song called There's No Going Back, and I would just blast it, and I was like, there's no going back for me, baby. I was like, there's no going back. I'm not going back inside that damn house and quarantining again.
Hey, whatever gets you through. Jordan, what about you? How are you looking out for your mental health at all times?
Well, I really loved hearing all of you guys talk about that, because it's just something that I am constantly thinking about. Whether it's like taking on different jobs, or if I want to do some type of social engagement, like I really try to like take a second and listen to myself and like see if I have any reservations about doing something. And if I do, I investigate that. And if I shouldn't do something, then I just don't. You know, I I believe that I am my top priority, and I'm the person who's looking out for me. So doesn't really matter what it would do for my career or what this, that, and the next. It's like I need to make sure that I'm okay. And yeah, definitely like doing yoga, getting outside is really important for me. And I actually getting away from my phone. I like put away my phone last night. Yeah, except for my partner and I, we actually had to like go get something, and it was like a 30-minute drive. And I was like, don't worry, like I'm just gonna draw a map. I wish I had the map. It was hilarious. It was like in crayons, and just like we got lost and went on like a 20-minute detour, and it had to end up using our phones. But it was like a really fun experiment. And yeah, I think just like getting away from my phone from anywhere from like an hour to a day is just like really important for me, because this, I don't know, it's just this like energy sucking device, and it's super valuable, and I need it for work and connecting and everything else. But it really feels so good to just not be available for any little thing to just drag you in. So yeah, all of everything that everyone has said, and like no phone stuff.
I want you to know I'm picturing like Kevin McAllister Home Alone, like his game plan for keeping that's how I'm picturing the map that you drew.
Yeah, very colorful. There was also a llama on it for some reason.
What map is complete without a llama, Jordan?
Exactly.
Is all I'm
Good
saying.
luck, llama.
If it makes you feel any better, I went on an adventure with some friends in college, and it was away from our phones. We just want to drive for a little bit, got a little bit lost, found ourselves in a cornfield, and then all our phones had died. So we had no means of getting back. We had no maps. So my friend who was driving, we finally like get onto at least a road where it's like populated, and she sees this truck and she goes, that guy's driving a Chevy. Let's follow him. He probably knows where he's going. It got us where we needed to go. Not great decision making, but it worked. So
so funny. Yeah, you have to come up with different like solutions that are funnier and much harder than just Googling it.
yeah, exactly. And okay, so Sierra, you're also a student in all of this, which is highest levels of stress just at all times. So tell me what is your method? Is it therapy, being away from your phone? I saw you very much agreed with that. Tell me what your strategy is.
Yeah, I think everyone had great points. Devery and Zoe, I was like, oh my God, especially, therapy being, I feel like in our generation, not talked about enough and not accepted enough. I think that is a great way to deal with stress and to manage your stress. And I agreed also with Peyton about taking time for yourself. And I also love meditating and I love yoga. But yeah, I it's funny because when Jordan said about the phone thing, I literally remember me and my mother having this conversation in the car the other day. We were in Georgia, and I was like, she was like, I don't know how I was able to get around like before the GPS. You literally just had to do everything by memory. And she's like, I don't know how we all did it. Like, she's like, I've literally drove like 20 or 30 miles just from something I put in my mind. And I'm like, yeah, it's weird that now our generation, we rely so heavy on our phones for everything. I'm like, I agree. I need to put it down and just be more present and be in the moment. And it is energy sucking, and it is something that you will get on and tell yourself you're going to be on your phone for 10 minutes, and it turns into like 5 hours, and you're like, where did the time go? I wasted so much of the day. So I agree, whether that's working out, which I'm just starting to get back into. I just started working with a trainer again because the COVID pounds were real. I was like, what happened during COVID? I think I was just like so nervous, and I'm just snacking, and you're stuck in your house and you're watching TV. And I'm glad that now that things are starting to get back to normal, we can actually do things that help us mentally, and do things that excuse me, do things that we can, that can help us with our mental health. But I definitely agree with everything everyone said. Those were the points that I was going to say.
Oh, and then I came to you last. I am so sorry. I hated being that student in school. But
I love it. I can just be like, yeah.
Yes to all of the above. But I like that we're talking about this, especially because Zoe, your most recent project was Dear Evan Hansen, which is very, very heavy subject matter. And it's something that you kind of need to, I would imagine you need to prep yourself working on it, but it's also something you need to kind of prep yourself to watch. So tell me about working in that space, because there's got to be boundaries set so you can take yourself out of it, right?
Yeah, well, like I kind of consider it like as a little cameo I did. So I was there, but I wasn't like there. But definitely the times that I was there was it was unexpected, the entire situation when it came to like the subject matter. I mean, I had obviously known about Dear Evan Hansen before, and I had watched the video on YouTube because I never lived in New York. So, or went to a Broadway show, because I love Broadway, but I'm just not, it's not what I pay for. So I was very surprised the times that it did get really serious and how there wasn't much prep work for it. I think one moment that I always take away is when I noticed like a truly amazing thing. And it was with Steven. He was directing us on this scene where basically we were all like reacting to Evan, starting to get into the song, You'll Be Found. And he basically had us like walk through the journey of 2020 and how we all went through this pandemic. And he basically brought up the fact that, for this project and, this specific part of the scene that we were doing, while he was recording, he was talking about how like, we've lost people. There's been suicides, this show will be something that makes someone not do it. You know what I mean? And so that really stuck with me, especially because, we had filmed the movie, I think in like November of 2020. And then we did the pickups in June. So of 2021. So during that time, around like Christmas time, my friend had committed suicide. And so I, went a whole like couple months without being a part of this project. And I totally forgot that Dear Evan Hansen was about suicide. Like, if I'm being completely real, because that's how much I was not included. So when he said that, and when he brought up that fact, it triggered me because I had been thinking about that. And that made me cry. And well, obviously, so I started crying and I was like, shit, like, oh, I'm so sorry. But I was like, wow, this is a really impactful film. And like to be a part of this and to be, the hot girl crying in the background, that was iconic because it really was going to change lives for other people. And, even when I had just listened to the soundtrack in the beginning, it was just such an amazing soundtrack, and just listening to the perspectives they had on a bunch of different topics in high school, surrounding suicide and how it impacts everyone and why people do things. It was crazy. And so I don't feel like there was much prep work into it. I don't feel like I was always caught off guard with it. Even when I actually saw the final product, one of the songs really hit me. It was about when Evan's dad, I guess, left or whatever. And basically it was just crazy because I didn't even realize that song was going to be a part of the movie. And there was a lot of things that I felt resonated with me and that I was never prepared for. But definitely I'm glad that I was able to express what I needed to express. And I'm glad that I was able to be a part of something so beautiful and meaningful for many different people, including myself. And, honestly, I kind of like the unexpected. I think it gives more of a real performance. And I always just go into things thinking like, whatever life throws at me, I know I should be prepared for it. And, I really believe that God puts me through situations that he knows I'm prepared to go through, if that makes sense. And clearly with my friend having a very personal issue, that, was the prep work without being told that we were going to do such an emotional situation like that. Like, I just thought we were going to react. I didn't think he was going to go through this whole monologue. I was like, okay, interesting.
Okay. Yeah. We're really getting the details here.
Yeah. But it got us all, that whole entire auditorium when we were doing that pickup shot. We all felt it, it was beautiful. And I'm just very grateful at the end of the day. So yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, but I
believe it did.
Okay, cool.
I believe any answer is a good answer is what I'm saying.
That's hot. I love that. Thank you.
Well, no, I'm glad that we get on the subject of, such a heavy subject and that you were unprepared for it. Obviously, all of you have causes that are near and dear to your hearts in individual ways, and you all have platforms with which that you can speak to these issues. And I know, Jordan, it's particularly important for you. I want to ask everyone, but I want to start with Jordan. How do you consciously use your platform? Like what do you think about when it's like, okay, I have this following now, I need to say these things that I want to say, but as Zoe mentioned earlier, it needs to still be a little bit calculated. How do you find the balance of using your influence for the things you want to use it for?
Yeah, that is super important, like a tactical approach, because when you are trying to present something to a broader audience, potentially people that you don't even know, you do kind of need to figure out how to achieve your objective, whether your objective is to get people to care about a minority group or to get people to care about an instance that's happening. You need to be calculated about how you present it. One thing that I really like to do on my Instagram is support people who are doing positive things, whether they're doing art or, whether they're making like I just recently found out about this thing called Destination Indigenous, and it basically connects people in Canada to experiences that are hosted by Indigenous people in Canada, right? And so people who are doing things like that, and I want to promote that, and then behind the scenes monetarily supporting those things as well, because if I have the ability to do so, I want to also back up my representation of it. But I do think that the representation is very important.
Absolutely. And Devery, if my info is correct, you're getting into the writer's room very soon here on Reservation Dogs, and that's a very unique opportunity to really tell a story that you want to tell and that matters. And I'm certain that is not lost on you, but I would love to know how you're preparing yourself and what you want to do with that opportunity.
I am beyond grateful to Sterling, who has uplifted community in all levels of success that he's gone through. And so being a part of the writers' room for Res Dog season 2 is huge for me, but also all of the other writers who are Indigenous and are from different levels of experience. It's just been great. We've actually started the writers' room and have been going. We've been up to like a lot of shenanigans. And I think this season I was just I think my goal of the season for season 2 is to widen the scope of the world, because we've seen only so much with these kids and the res dogs in the show. But I wanted to see more of the community. And also I wanted to honor all of the Indigenous women and aunties that I grew up with. I know there were a lot of uncles in the show in season 1 who are hilarious and are so, so good. I was just wanting to bring the experience of Indigenous women into the conversation. And I think that myself and Tazba Rose Chavez and Erica Tremblay, who are the Indigenous women in the writer's room, I think we've all been holding it down. But as for writing and being in the writer's room, Sterling, who is the co-creator of Res Dogs, had known me first and foremost as an actor, but also as a filmmaker, because I also write and direct and produce. And so he knew me from the film festival circuit as we were both indie filmmakers coming up. And he's been huge in helping support and push my career behind the camera as well. And of which, when you were talking about having our causes and issues that we're passionate about be at the forefront, is something that I undoubtedly try and bring forward, whether it's through social media, whether it's through lending voices and passing the mic to water protectors and land defenders around the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women, and so on and so forth, but also having it be brought through my writing as well.
Absolutely. I just feel so like fulfilled by this conversation, you guys. I feel like we need to stop here, right? I feel like we've reached the peak and we need to stop in this really, really great place. I want to thank all of you so very much for joining us today. Zoe, Sierra, Devery, Peyton, Jordan, you're all wonderful women. I cannot wait to see what you continue doing. And I hope that those of you watching this panel check out more of our wonderful content at the Power Women Summit. And thank you all for joining us. And hopefully we'll see y'all soon.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
So nice.
So great to meet all of you.
Yeah, this
it
was so much
amazing.
fun.
So amazing.